Hello guys, Sarisa here again, T-Mac for short. This time we'll be talking about the 2025 Zenith Bank NBBF Women's Basketball League. But before we go into the analysis, let's quickly talk about all the great things that Zenith Bank has been doing this year. We remember how they gave some huge amount of money to our Tigress after they won the Afrobasket, and they are doing the same thing in the local leagues. And in that I mean that they transformed the indoor sports hall at the Surulere National Stadium. We could see how beautiful it is, and it's great to see that the girls are having to play in a very, very cozy environment. In fact, if I do say so myself. And also, let's not forget the huge money that they dropped, 15.5 million naira for the Zenith Bank League this year. Now, let's talk about how the money is spread across board. 7.5 million is going to the winner of the league this year. Then 5 million is going to the team that comes second, and then 3 million for the team that comes third. And the champions of each conference are not left out. So for the Savannah Conference, we have Titans going home with 1 million naira. And then for the Atlantic Conference, First Bank will be going home with 1 million naira as well. Then, of course, the MVP is not left out. MVP is going home with 500,000 naira. And then the highest scorer, the highest rebounder, and the highest block shots will be going home with 300,000 naira each. Amazing, right? There's so much to win, so much to fight for, and that's what we saw throughout the games. Now, let's quickly go into the games. Air Warriors and Royal Aces played the first game. Air Warriors struggled going scoreless for over 2 minutes in the first quarter due to rush drives and forcing plays into traffic. Their defense lacked rim and ball protection from both guards and posts. They improved in the third quarter, but they remained inconsistent, taking poor shots that hurt their scoring rhythm. And despite how hard they fought, they still lost narrowly to the Royal Aces. And the Royal Aces, on the other hand, they played with pace. They were pushing the ball in transition. However, they also suffered from poor ball rotation, leading to missed open layups and of course open shots as well. Their decisive moment came when, towards the end of the game, the last few seconds, Mofe had a drive to the right, and then she kicked it for an open layup to Chidinma, who sealed that game 54-52 victory for the Royal Aces in their first win. For the second game, the Bayelsa Blue Whales faced off against First Bank in their first game. They're coming in as fourth place in the Atlantic Conference, so you can see how far they have come and how much they've struggled. I think almost all the years that Bayelsa team have been in the league, they've qualified for the finals. Incredible, great job there by Coach Tony. Now let's talk about the game. The game started strong, showing, for the Bayelsa Blue Whales, they were fearless. They were, they have this solid fundamentals with their team. The defensive pressure, highlighted by Favor's back-to-back blocks from the start of that game, slowed First Bank's early offense. They forced hurried shots, from First Bank, and they looked in control early in the game. However, their lack of big game experience showed as the game wore on, right? Despite their speed and their energy, they couldn't sustain the level that they came into that game with, and eventually they fell against First Bank, losing their first game in the final 8. And then First Bank opened slowly, of course, but eventually they grew into the game, using their experience and their composure to take control of that game. Offensively, they improved with their ball rotation, finding the open players, and they took smarter shots. Defensively, they started to adjust, they started to shut down Bayelsa and stopping those middle drives, switching effectively despite the younger team's pace and their superior ball rotation, of course, extra passes, shot selection. It allowed them to dominate and secure their first win in the final 8. 53 for First Bank and 36 for Bayelsa. And then we get into the third game for the day. Nigerian Customs going off against Titans, the champions of the Savannah Conference. Now, the Nigerian Customs struggled defensively with poor help defense, that the Titans capitalized on for easy points. Their size advantage with Blessing, Tumishe, and Jane allowed for some inside plays that we saw. In the first two games, we didn't see a lot of inside plays, but with them having, those players that had some height advantage, we were able to see some of that. But then overall, offensively, they couldn't execute consistently. Cynthia's sharp shooting in the fourth quarter nearly sparked a comeback, but they couldn't maintain composure to control the game enough to win the game. Titans, on the other hand, as the Savannah Conference champions, like I said before, they displayed well-coordinated, disciplined style of play. Offensively, they prioritized ball movements, turning down bad shots for better shots, while also excelling in transition and spacing. That's one thing I noticed about the Titans. Defensively, they hustled collectively, they protected the rim, they trusted one another, which showed their smooth passing and efficient scoring abilities, even under pressure late in the third quarter when the Nigerian Customs started to come in and started to try to change the pace of the game and control of the game. They still stuck to their style and held on through, and they won that game 51-47. And the last game of the day, MFM Dolphins. This game everybody felt was an upset because Dolphins beat MFM, who of course are the back-to-back champions of the Zenith Women's Basketball League. But during the phases, the second phase, Dolphins had beaten MFM. So this was a 1-1 situation between these two teams. And now Dolphins beating MFM gives them an upper hand, if you get the picture. So let's talk about the game. MFM controlled the first half of the game with their speed. We know them to be quick shooters. We know them to be relentless in how they hustle. And, despite being on the sides, they always out-hustle or outwork any team any day. Pius dominated from the mid-range. She scored from nearly every spot, proving how unstoppable she is. We saw what she did also in the Under-19 World Cup. They led by 12 points. Most of the game, they led the game, especially in the first half of that game. And there was something one of the commentators said, this game is a game of two halves, right? Because MFM dominated in the first half, but then the game changed in the second half. After the first half of the game, MFM had no offensive answer to Dolphins' adjustments. Their scoring dried up and the defensive lapses allowed the game to slip away, ending in a 41-51 deficit against MFM. Dolphins, on the other hand, they started slowly. They were struggling to convert good looks and managing just 5 points in the first quarter. But by halftime, they were still behind, but turned the game around in the third quarter, tying it 29 with 6 minutes left on the clock. Then from then on, it was go time for Dolphins. From then, they dictated the play with stronger rebounding, tighter defense, and more coordinated offense. Their composure in the final minutes sealed that game 51-41 for them, which is like a comeback win, and basically that made it the tale of two halves. Great job so far by all the teams in the first day of the final 8 games. We'll be seeing more games today, so let's all continue to support our teams and bringing all the energy from off the court as they bring all the energy on the court. Team Mac out.